Welcome to Savage2, where souls get tortured. Let's get right into it. In this video I will explain some of the absolute basics about Savage. The video is intended for new players or players under ATSF. I hope you guys enjoy and learn something. Starting with the absolute basics, walking. You move in this game by using the WASD keys in accordance with the mouse to orientate which way you're facing. Having said that, you will absolutely forget the S key exists. You will never use the S key to move backwards. There's no situation you will ever use this. In addition to the basic keys, there's also stamina, which is portrayed by the gray bar on the left bottom of the screen, which you can access by pressing Shift. This will basically allow you to sprint instead of walking across the game. Of course, this will cost you stamina. On top of that, there's also a thing called Charge, which is again on the left bottom portrayed by the red shoe area right now, which you can access by the right mouse button. Both stamina and charge are used a lot during this game, be it in walking or in combat. Charge is the fastest way to move around this game. It will also be shown by yourself or your enemies by the red glow when it's used. The direction that you are facing actually determines how fast your character can move while using his extra abilities. The fastest way to move would actually be to walk sideways while using your charge. A little hint to get across the map quickly would be to walk sideways and then do a little hop behind it. You will keep your momentum, and while you're hopping you can release both the charge button and the stamina button to already regain some, which makes it the fastest normal way to travel. Another way to travel would actually be to use the terrain. When you're using charge, you can fly, which makes basically the hop that you're doing a lot bigger. There is no fall damage in this game, so that actually makes flying by the terrain really easy and the best way to move. As you can see, we just fell down this cliff, didn't do anything to us. So let's move on to combat. Combat entails melee attacks, range attacks, and blocking. At the bottom of your screen, you will see there is a skill bar. This holds all attacks and abilities your character is capable of. Melee combat will be engaged by pressing 1 and then clicking the left mouse button to start swinging. The game is focused around melee combat, which quite simply means that this type of attack deals more damage per second than ranged attacks do. Ranged attacks can be accessed by pressing 2, followed by pressing the left mouse button again to trigger the ranged attack. Each class has their own unique damage output for melee and ranged skills. Blocking is not part of the skill bar. The blocking ability can be used by either pressing C or the middle mouse button. I personally use the middle mouse button. If you want to use the middle mouse button, you would want to remove the other hotkeys attached to it. Since you would scroll by mistake, you would switch skills. To change your hotkeys, you simply go into Options, Controls, and the ones you want to remove are Inventory Next and Inventory Previous. This would stop the scrolling from happening. Whenever you successfully block the attack of an enemy, you will actually get a slight attack speed buff. If you hit the block of your enemy, you will actually get a slight debuff on your next attack speed. While blocking, you might notice this little meter running out. When it runs out, you'll get stunned. While you're stunned, you cannot block and you cannot attack. You can still move though. Successfully hitting your enemy will actually recharge some of your block meter. So this game does actually have a few more mechanics for combat. When hitting someone from behind, you do bonus damage. So from here, you would do normal damage. This is already calculated as the back, like the side is also the back. This does more damage. So generally you will be trying to get into someone's back to deal more damage. They also obviously cannot block from behind. And the other thing is, when you have your ranged weapon out, you actually take more damage from melee attacks. So try to never get hit when you have your ranged weapon out with an enemy melee attack. So all classes in Savage 2 have either a 3 or 4 swing combo. Each swing in the sequence actually does more damage. So the first one is the weakest but also quickest. Second one does slightly more damage and is almost the same speed. And in this case the third one will do the most damage. However, after your third swing or the last one in the sequence, there is a slight delay before you can do anything else, in which you would be vulnerable to attacks. Right, so I think that's it for the absolute basics of combat. Let's do a little bit of combat maneuvers you would do against an enemy. So a mistake I often see for new players is that they would actually aim directly for your opponent. However, as I just mentioned, you do bonus damage when you get behind them. So where you actually want to be aiming during your combat would be here. So you would be basically walking around them and not getting stuck in them. And then if you go even a step further, you would use your charge to get behind them. Or at least at this 90-degree barrier where you would also do the bonus damage. So the reason you charge is to overwhelm your enemy from following you with this block, since you want to dodge him from stopping you, obviously, to deal as much damage as possible. So you would aim next to him and get behind. You might have noticed I kept warming up 2 hits before I actually engaged the enemy with my third hit. This is because the third hit does the most damage, and while you're here, your enemy cannot hit you theoretically, and if he would come, he would walk into your attacks. And then with only being in melee range on the third hit, which does the most damage, hopefully from behind, you also take a lot less damage. Of course, it doesn't mean that you should not actually engage with your normal hits or even the third thing from the front. You should switch up your attacks all the time so your enemy cannot read what you're doing. This makes it harder for your enemy to block proper, and so you can easily deal a lot more damage to him. Savage2 also has a leveling system. You can access this panel by pressing the H key. For every level you gain, you will get 4 attribute points or skill points, which you can distribute across endurance, intelligence, agility, or strength. As a general rule in Savage2, the more damage you deal, the more experience and gold you gain, so the further ahead you can get. Therefore, your first points will mostly be focusing around strength normally. However, here you also have a choice to make on what you want to do the rest of the game. There is, for example, a healer class, which would really benefit from getting some intelligence. Endurance is normally your secondary stat, just because more health means you're harder to kill, so you can deal even more damage. Agility, it depends a little bit on the player, but mostly this is ignored for a big part. So let me show you one of my builds as an example. I usually play a fighter in the game, and as you see, I have 15 total points invested into strength. Since as a fighter, the more damage you do, the faster you get experience, the more you can get ahead in the game, hopefully. So every time I can spend a point towards strength, I will actually spend a point towards strength, and then endurance is my secondary stat, and a few points in agility. And let me also show you a possible build for a healer. As you might notice, this one is a lot more diversified. This is because you cannot actually play the chaplain class right from the start of the game. Meaning you still need some strength points to actually level up yourself faster before you have access to this unit, and only then you can proper switch into stats most necessary for the class. In this case, intelligence and endurance would be my focuses. Okay, so let's move on to some basic building instructions. When there is no commander in the game, you can, as the builder class or conjurer class, you can, by pressing the 7 key, actually enter the building menu. This is really helpful to help your team out, since you want to have more location on the map. In this case, we will build next to our closest gold mine to get more gold income. As you might notice, the blue circle indicates the distance in which you can still actually build the gold mine. Like this, we could not actually build the gold mine. So make sure the blue circle touches, but don't actually get it too close. Because if we were to build it like this, an enemy could hit both buildings at the same time. And if he deals more damage, he gets more XP, and so he will snowball out of control. With the right mouse button, you can rotate your buildings if necessary. If you are a builder class, you could help building or repair structures by pressing the R key. Let's get a little bit more technical as to why you want to make certain buildings in what locations. So, generally, at the start of the game, you want to make another garrison or sub-lair. This, however, does not actually have to be at the closest gold mine. This just needs to be a location to get a second point of attack on the enemy to increase the pressure your team can apply. Small mobs like this, it will pretty much always be the gold mine, since you will obviously get the gold and still a second position to attack your enemy. Usually after you start with the first garrison, even if it goes down, you want then focus on getting a technology building up. This is usually the armory or the nexus, since then you can also start building towers. Just knowing the general layout of building can help you decide what you can do for your team to get into an advantageous position. So also don't be afraid when you're entering the game to just try things out, since it will overall improve your effectiveness. And the last important thing to know when building is when building towers, the red area displays where you will not be able to build another tower of the same kind. Try to put your tower in such a position that you will have several towers inside your base, preferably in such a way that you would have several angles on each building. So in this case I built them to protect the armory only, where you would now from both sides have arrow fire. They couldn't hide around the building to pop health potions. Another important thing to consider is vision. There are actually classes, the scout and the hunter, who can place vision items. You can see right now our vision is kinda, well, only where the players are. Other than that, we now have blind spots. So you would actually want to pick one of the classes with vision items, in this case skill 5, and get some vision on the map for your team. Even though you might not actually want to play this class, and you could actually return now and switch to the class you do want to play, this gives a major advantage to your team to not get surprised by enemy pushes and portals. Also, just to note, every character and item and such that this item spots does give you experience, so it's not even a waste to go place them on the map. You will still get your experience points from it and be a huge advantage to your team. Just to show it from the B side, it would be the hunter skill number 7, the sentry bat, which also gives vision. So since I just talked about skill usage for the first time, it might be nice to know where you can actually find out what your skills do. You can either press Y and read up on the skills there, or by pressing the H key and hovering over your skills at the bottom right here. And as last part of this video, let me show you how to install the mods from Savage2. I really recommend any player, new or old, to get these mods. They really improve every single aspect of the game slightly, be it fighter, commander, healer, everything gets slightly better. So I'll post this link in the description. And once you are in here, you basically want to go to configs and get the VVUA settings. And you want to then go to your Savage2 Tortured Soul folder, press on the game folder, and just post it right here. Afterwards, you would then go actually and get the mods themselves. All you have to do is download all these resource files and place them in exactly the same folder, the game folder. Eventually it would then look something like this, and now next time you restart your game, you would have all the mods installed. It's really quick, really simple. Thanks for watching this video. In the description I will leave a link to our Discord server where we plan our future games. And I really hope to see you in game.